What's going on, everybody? Over here on Isaac's garage, fixing up the Schwinn budget build. I've been busy lately putting in AC and heat in my house and here in the shop, so I got heat in here, so I'll be able to, do a whole lot more builds and videos this winter for you guys. So, I mean, we'll be doing mainly cars probably here soon, but I still have the 29er Diamondback budget build I'm going to do on here. So you have that to look forward to after this one. That one will be a little bit nicer. But finally got a chain in for this thing. So we're going to put the chain on. We're going to mess around with the brakes a little bit today. And because that's really all it needs. I have everything else to finish it. So we're going to mess around with this chain here. So let's get started on that. I have not honestly really showed you guys enough of me actually doing the building. I kind of just like, oh, I got this much done, and then show you guys. So I'm trying to make that a little better. Okay, I'm working on it. So I got a Shimano chain for this. I got it on eBay. I almost think that it's a knockoff Shimano, a scam one, because packaging looked a little sketch. I don't know if I still have the box. I would show you guys. It looked pretty fake. Let me see if I can find the box real quick. Well, I guess I don't have it anymore. Hang on, guys. I guess I don't have it. But anyway. It looks pretty fake, but whatever. It was cheap, and I still needed a chain regardless, So whatever. It is what it is. Okay, so there is several different ways to get the correct length on your chain on a bike. Especially at full suspension, you got to be very particular about what you do on that. Hardtail is a little easier because your chain doesn't shorten on you when your suspension moves, but obviously this is going to shrink a little bit as it goes up and down, so you got to make sure that that's right. When I went to school, the way they taught us was you go around your big ring on your cassette and go around here and ditch the derailleur and then add 2 links to it, and that's supposed to be correct. The other method that I've found, which I've compared this to that method to see if it ends up being the same, and it is 99% of the time. It works better on hardtails, to be honest, but the best way I've found is you put your chain through there, have it on your smallest gear, because obviously that's going to be where your chain is the loosest, basically, because obviously as it goes up through the gears, it's actually going to pull your derailleur more and more like this. So basically, if you pull it down to right where it's got tension right there, you can see this part does nothing. Then right there, that's where your resistance is. Okay? So that is almost touching. See how I got just a little bit on it? Like, that's really where you want to be. Like, so if I did this and then put it to this length and then did the other method, it would end up being the same. I've done it before to test it. Because I even asked people at school when I went to school for this stuff, if that method was correct, and they said they've never done that before. So I just kind of had to figure it out on my own, and it ends up working 9 times out of 10. But I'm just telling you guys the way I do it, and we know why I do it. But since this is a Shimano chain, we have to use a Shimano master link, which is a specific pin, which I have a couple here. Yeah. Thought I had a couple. So we'll show you guys how to use those. here you are. But they're just pins, so you don't use a regular master link on these chains. Where is my chain tool? Okay, got my park tool, chain tool here. Got my master links. Oh, hey, I lied. See, I told you this is a knockoff, guys, because if this is a real Shimano, it would not have these. It came with a regular master link. That's how you know it's a knockoff. So if it's a knockoff, then the Shimano pin that's supposed to be in it, if it's a real Shimano, that won't work unless it's an actual Shimano chain. So since it came with the regular master link, that's what I'm going to use. Because I don't want this chain to break mid-ride, because, you know, obviously that sucks. Nobody wants that. So let's shorten it up here to what we want, which I'm going to go with that. We're going to test that out. That's actually the shortest, almost the shortest I can make it. If I left it right where it's at, it would have just a little bit of tension on it. Honestly, we could probably get away with that. Let me just hook it up. We'll run it through the gears and see what it looks like. Oh yeah, we do also have to put our shifter cables on today. We can do that. We'll probably do that before we do the brakes. That way the shifting's squared away. So that's almost a little shorter than I'd like. See how close this is? Right here. That's another sure tell sign that your chain's too short. You know, you want it to have a little bit more on it for chain slap and whatnot. Which this wouldn't be too bad because it is a shadow design, but you can just by hand run it through the gears and the limit screws off. So that's where it would be. So see how it really doesn't have that much on it. So you could afford to take another link out and make it a little shorter. You know, plus it's obviously going to shrink just a hair when the suspension moves, which honestly on this design I don't know if it would technically, it wouldn't shorten up that much, honestly. Okay, we're got a master link here. Master link is right here. Oh. Let's see. Oh, sorry guys. Get my master link pliers. You gotta get some of these. Makes it so much easier. So much easier. Best thing ever. For a while there, I got away with just using needle nose, but it's just a pain to use needle nose. This is so much easier. So we're gonna take one link out of this, and by one link, I mean one inner and one outer, you know, plate. Because you can't hook it up the other way, obviously. So essentially, when you say one link, it's actually two, because the way they hook up, obviously. So this should be the ticket right here. This should be what we need. There we go. Got that on. That's about where you want it, guys. Okay, well let's go ahead and we will adjust the limit screws on this right now. If I can find my screwdriver. Good thing you can't see my workbench because it's a disaster right now. Let me clean it. But you got your high and your low screw. High is obviously your smaller cog. low is your upper cog, which low is honestly the most important. That way it doesn't shift into your wheel and destroy spokes like everybody does wrong. So, but the first one you do is your high, which is your lower one. You got to do this all by eyeball. So, you want this bottom pulley for this to line up perfectly with this, your smallest sprocket on your cassette or freewheel. So, get back here and eyeball that best you can and adjust that down to where it looks good. And you can't go 100% off the eyeball, so you have to get it as close as you can. And the best way to do this, you can do this, I typically do the limit screws before you put any cables on. It's easier. That way you can go up by hand and then release it and see how good it falls into that lower gear, because it should go right in there. See how it's hesitating a little bit? I don't know if you can see that. It kind of skips just a little. So you want to back it off just a little bit more, guys. Just a hair more. Because you don't want to go down too low, because if you go down too much, then it's going to hesitate in the upshift. So you want the dead minimum for it to shift smooth down, so that way you don't have to over-index on the shifter to get it to shift up one gear. So let's give that a shot. Okay, that's a lot better. I think we can deal with that. That's pretty good. And then as for the other one here, okay, get it up into that gear, and then tighten your screw down so it gets close, and don't get your fingers in the spokes like I just did there. Okay, a little too much. Yeah, that's pretty good. Narrow wide's a little noisy on this thing. Up in that lower gear there. Okay, so that's about what you want right there. So we can go ahead and run our shifter cable for this. And I have one of these. Hold your bars straight, which helps you not only work on the bike, but it's nice to hold it where you want it. You know, when you're doing your cables, that way your bars are straight and whatnot. Very handy to have. So, see, hold your bars in there. I already spaced it out, my grips. Well, actually, I should have put my levers on here. Let's see. Yeah, it'll be close enough. Let's see here. Brake cable. Shifter cable. Okay, here we go. Hopefully I got some more shifter cables. There we go, there's one. Some eBay housing, which I've actually had pretty good luck with this. I even run it on my own personal bikes. Usually it's as good a quality as anything else, I think. Stainless cables, as long as you get any good stainless cable, usually they're pretty good. Just make sure it's stainless. You gotta watch it. Some of these places, they're just a regular steel cable and they'll rust on you and freeze up. So just be aware of that when you order some of the stuff online. Okay. So this is a micro shifter, so let me see where the hole is to feed this through on this one. I think it's a little different. Okay, so there's no cap on this one. There's literally a hole behind the shifter here. I don't know if you can see it here. So feed that through. Make sure you don't kink your cable. Make sure that's in there. Make sure that works correctly. Then onto the housing. So let me get my cable cutters here. Which they are, where are those at? Aha! Get some Park Tool cable cutters. I mean, you don't have to have these, but they do cut a lot better than the, you know, your normal like side cutters or whatever you'd normally use. Let me get my housing ends here. Got all my stuff over here. So, derailleur housing ends. Use the little plastic ones. Buy them on eBay also. I do these for most of my budget builds. Honestly, I haven't had too bad of luck at them anyway, like even on my personal bikes. So, they work pretty good. Just gotta be careful when you're buying sometimes. Look at what you're buying. Okay, so we need 6 caps for that. And our housing here. Let's unroll some of this. See what we want to do here. So what you need to do this, you need a pick. You need your cutters. So go ahead and cut your one end. Get you a pick. Show you here. I usually use a 90-degree pick. After you cut that, I don't know how well you can see that, but you want to open that up a little bit. That way it's smooth and your cable doesn't catch on it. So get that as best you can with that. Put you a cap on it. Make sure you get that on there good. That way when you set your cable, saves you a little bit of time there. So put this in there. You want to run this kind of wherever you want here. So you want this to have the least amount of housing as possible with you being able to move your bars back and forth. So kind of get it where you want it and kind of hold it with your finger there and pop this off, and you know, make sure that it's going to work before you go cutting anything. You can always cut it long and trim it later, but make sure that this goes in here good right along the top here. And then pull that back a little bit. We can take a little bit out of it. I like that about right there. Pretty good. Cut that. Get your pick again, once again. Get that in there and open that up so your cable doesn't get caught. Push that in. Go ahead and feed your cable through this portion. Don't kink your cable. There you go, you're set right there. Check that out, make sure that's good. It's good to go. And since we're done with that, we can take this off because your cable runs through this on this bike anyway. So it's kind of in the way. So take that off, get that out of your way. Get that over here. And this is a part of your suspension that moves. So you got to make sure that this has enough to when your suspension moves, that can move without falling out. Which this suspension design, it's going to compress, so it's actually going to get shorter, so it can't pop out. Some designs, when they move, it'll get longer, so you have to make it a little long. But this one, you can just do something like that. It'll be plenty, because it'll actually shrink when you ride. So There you go. Open these ends up. Put your caps on. And your housing, or your cable through. And also, you know, guys, comment and tell me what you think you want to see some more of on my next videos. You know, I'm pretty new to doing these videos and stuff, so, but I've done bikes for a long time. So, you know, just let me know what you want to see. Don't hesitate. Don't hesitate. And I'm going to throw a cable tie on this to kind of hold this closer to where I want it. It always helps, but you never want to do these too tight so you don't mash them. I mean, it's kind of hard to do, but you know, you can smash those pretty easy. Where are my side cutters? I guess I don't have those over here today. Somewhere. Do something like that. Okay, and then the rear derailleur portion we're going to do next. This is the most important part, and the part that most people mess up that I see. I've even seen, you know, professional bike shops send bikes out and mess this up, and I think it's ridiculous because it's so easy. So feed this through here, go down to your derailleur. So you want to make this to where when it goes into these or this, you want to make that as flat as you can going in. You don't want it to be like, let's say you make it too long and it's all bent right here where it goes in. You don't want that. That's a restriction. That'll make it not shift as well. Plus, the less housing you have, the better. See how this one's kind of sticking up? You kind of want that set down. So sometimes you can use, see how that cable's like that? So you might want to put a zip tie to hold that a little bit better. You don't always have to, but you know, all this kind of stuff helps. So you want to put this, you kind of want it like right about right there is where we want this. That will work really well. See, this is kind of different because it's a shadow design, so it kind of goes in there a little straighter, but on a lot of derailleurs, it really has to bend to go in there, and people always make them too short. Open that up again. Make sure that's good. Put your cap on. And bam. We're about ready to, and then make sure your barrel adjuster, screw it all the way in tight, and then back it off like 3 or 4. That way, if you make it too tight initially, you can still screw it in a hair, but don't do it a lot, because if anything, you're going to have to add tension, not take it away. So, just little tips like that, you know, help a lot. So that's really good. See how that goes really straight in there when it goes in? And then that tie helped this one be a little bit straighter going in. That's what you want. Get my dog to move here. Hang on. Come on, Blue. Move. I gotta get right there. Okay. So loosen this up a little bit. Your pinch bolt here. Now we already did the low and the high on this, so this is where it needs to be. Pull out as tight as you can, get this thing clamped down good. And then kind of pull your cable out of the way a little bit so it doesn't get caught in your wheel or derailleur. Always wait to cut it till afterwards. That's just me, because it's easier to pull on it when you got that full piece left here. You know, if you need to add a little tension. So I always cut it at the very end after you're done doing all the adjusting. So let's run through the gears here real quick. See, that needs way more attention. See how when I set that first shift, it sets all these caps on the housing a little bit better. So you're gonna have to add some. See, it's all loose. When it needs a ton like that, don't use your barrel adjuster if you don't have to. You know, get back here and loosen this. And you have all this cable that I told you. And use that to pull on that. And take that slack out of there. So there you go. Try here. There you go. Okay, not perfect yet, needs some work, but shifts. Yeah, see, too much tension. Not wanting a downshift. Well, I said make sure you do this. If you do add too much tension, you can take a little bit out. See, that's not enough. Took too much out, so crank that back a few clicks. Not enough. A little more. There you go. See, that's just enough to where it downshifts and upshifts good. That's all the tension screw is for. It's for adjusting, not your limits. So there we go. That's shifting pretty good, guys. Now we'll get it up into our last gear here. Now we'll adjust our B limit screw. Where's my screwdriver? There it is. Your B limit needs to be around 6 millimeters. So you can grab you a 5 or 6 millimeter Allen, and I'll have to zoom in and show you guys this. So what you want to do is right here. Right here. So between the end of this tooth and the tall part of your tooth on your sprocket needs to be 5 to 6 millimeters in between there, or as close as you can get. Because the further away that is, it won't shift as well. The closer, the better. But you obviously don't want it to touch. So let me adjust that here. It looks like it has a little bit too much. That's kind of why it's not shifting as good as it possibly can. Sometimes you gotta do this with a chain off, but you can do it either way. It's easier from the back side where you can look at it a little better. Okay, so take just a little bit more out of it. So right about there is where we need to be. So that might make the shift a little bit better. Should. See, something's not good. It might be a bent derailleur. It's off just a little. I've not put a derailleur hanger on this bike yet. Or take a little tension out, but when you do that, that sacrifices. Okay, so pretty good downshifting, guys. Man, I thought that thing would be a lot stiffer than this being a shadow. Okay. Test our shifting out here. And it's not too bad until it gets right there. The very last one before ninth gear. Which it's not wanting to go into this next one, which is probably my limit screw. I probably tightened it a little bit too much, so take a little bit out of it. And just do it, you know, a quarter to, you know, half turn at a time when you do that. There we go. See, that's all it needed. Because it was really hard to get into that last gear. So, that's not too bad right there. I'm pretty happy with this shifting on this. So, we're going to roll with that for right now. And focus on the brakes in the next video here. But that's all I got for you for derailleur adjustment on this. Derailleur adjustment and chain installation. So, have a good one, guys.